Learned so much already, and we're not even 5 minutes into the interview.
Let's do an authentic reading to start with. And I saw some really cool things on your palm. You tell the truth, and it gets you in trouble because I think you're a little too honest at times.
I remember being in private school. I broke them of that.
Your middle finger bends more towards your ring finger, and that's called the philosophical outlaw.
I'm going to have to make myself a philosophical outlaw shirt.
You are represented by the Three of Cups.
I feel like that's just the story of my life. For anybody who's watching this and going, she searched you out, hunted all this information. I can hear people thinking this. I don't share this. When I was young, I don't know. I feel like they might be too personal. I don't want to get into it because I don't want to cry in the middle of the interview. Yeah, see, now I'm going to dab my eyes here. Unless you are an IT dark web expert.
I have a website called the Enlightened Goddess Shop where you can purchase a reading.
I just never knew that you could do this digitally distanced. I'm going to stay on this after you go and debrief all my feelings about all of this and where you hit. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Perty Nerdy Talk Show. Today I have a very different type of show. It is not going to be your typical interview that you've seen me do before. I'm going to give you a little bit of a story time here and then introduce my very special guest. As I've probably mentioned on my channel before and on the other podcast, I am in a fair amount of writing groups on different platforms. And there was a particular writing group where we all decided to share our day jobs because we could then tap into each other's expertise. If we were writing on that subject and we didn't have any knowledge on it, we had someone to turn to. Well, it just so happened that I don't want to say in the market, but I was very interested in looking for a tarot card reader, someone who I can tap into their expertise, because I play D&D and one of my next character ideas is to play someone who reads tarot cards, reads tea leaves, has kind of a, I don't know, like a witch doctor medicine vibe. I don't know. I haven't quite figured out exactly the route I'm going to take this. I was very interested in kind of understanding tarot card reading. I even received tarot cards for Christmas from my husband. I don't know what kind of brand or you can tell me later when we talk about how important choosing or getting or buying or receiving tarot cards are. But I received a set and decided I'm going to start messing around with it and try to learn it. Very quickly, I realized there's a lot to it and my brain cannot contain it all and I can't figure it out. So I was hunting for a tarot card reader to pick their brain. And Gemma here happened to be in the same writing group and mentioned that she has expertise in this area. So I reached out to her and I thought to myself, there's no way that a tarot card reader can do what they do through a digital distanced experience. And yet she has assured me that not only will she do that for me today, but she is generously offering to do a palm reading as well. I am just so excited to have her on the channel. With all that said, let's meet the next guest for our Perty Nerdy Talk Show, Gemma Shreves. Gemma, why don't you take a moment to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you and how you got into doing what you do.
So I've been reading tarot cards for 6-7 years, and it was just something that out of the blue, I had this feeling that I just really wanted to learn it. We had a metaphysical school about 45 minutes from where I lived, so I signed up for 2 different classes to learn tarot. Fell in love with it, stuck around, did some palm classes, just really learned the whole craft of the fortune telling. And then I started doing private parties, individual readings. I worked out at the Carolina Ren Fest for a little while.
Oh, wow.
Doing this and met a lot of great people, did a lot of fun readings. And so I'm more than happy to be here today.
That's amazing. So you said how long, 6 or 7 years? Is that what you said?
Yeah, 6 to 7 years.
And in that amount of time, how long do you feel it took for you to kind of really get a handle on it?
As far as learning tarot, my number one tip is to use marked cards because you want to focus on being really intuitive and absorbing what the cards are trying to tell you versus trying to memorize what each one of them means. There's 78 cards. And it's very, very difficult, and they have so many different meanings. So like, I'll show you an example. here is a card, and I have like a label printed out that I put at the bottom. So I will use marked cards when I'm learning. This is the set I learned on. They're actually still the set that I get the best readings from. So that way, when you lay out your spread, you're not looking them all up in a little book, which really kills your momentum. You're not thinking, oh, I can't remember what that card means. You can actually draw from the labels that you've already put on your cards to create a reading.
Wow, that's a great tip already. Learned so much already, and we're not even like 5 minutes into the interview.
We're just getting started.
That's amazing. You said you do this on the side, right? You do this for other people. This is great. Yep. Okay. Just out of a ballpark, how many fortunes do you think you've read?
So I was thinking about that earlier, and I'll bet I've done over 200.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. Yep. Okay. So how do you want to begin this? How do you want to start?
A general reading, like I would typically do. And then we can move on to, I can change camera angles. We can actually look at cards and spreads. We can talk about the techniques, and you can, ask any questions you want. But let's do an authentic reading to start with.
Okay.
Okay. So I asked you ahead of time your birthday. And I like to start with numerology because that gives me an idea of the energy around you kind of on a grand scale. So you are in a completion year right now. So this means you need to be buttoning things up. Things that you're ready to be done with, things that you're, thinking, oh, I really need to retire this aspect of my life. I need to start letting things go. That's the energy that you're in right now. When your birthday hits this summer, you will move into a new beginning year. So if there's any sort of new beginning that you wanted to take on, you were looking at a new job, a new baby, a new house, anything like that, after your birthday this year is the year to do it. So I always like to see where people are when I start. So definitely you are in a completion year. Now, when I looked at your palms, because you sent me the pictures ahead of time, we talked about how you are left-handed. Yes. A little ambidextrous, but you use your left hand for your fine motor skills like writing and eating.
Right. Can I pause for a moment to explain to everyone else what my hand situation is? Yeah. So yes, everyone, so I write with my left hand. I feel like I do almost everything with my left hand. However, if I throw a ball, if I kick a ball, it's with my right hand, my right foot. I'm trying to think, there was something, cutting. I cut with my right hand, but I think that's something like a generational thing, because I remember being in private school as a kid, because I cut with my right hand, they were trying to force me to write with my right hand. And that was a thing that I think they thought, you can't have both. I don't know. But somehow I broke them of that. So anyway, just so everyone understands, it's kind of this weird, I don't know if it's ambidextrous. I can't say the word ambidextrous, but majorly left-handed. How about that?
Majorly left-handed. So we would consider you left-handed. And the way this works then is your right hand would be considered your palm of destiny.
Okay.
And your left palm is what's actually happening in this world. Your right hand is what you said you wanted when you came into this world. Okay. So we look at both hands when we do palmistry. And I saw some really cool things on your palm. And I saw some things that back each other up. Several things showed up multiple times in your palm. So I was really interested to really look at your palm. The first thing that I noticed when I look back from a past standpoint is when you came into this world, you said you wanted to see who you could be on your own. That actually happened. And when I look at your palm, it looks like you didn't have maybe the fairy tale beginning that some kids have. And the support systems may not have been in place there for you like some of your peers. But that was by design, because you said, I want to see who I can be. So when you look back at your past, that's what was going on there.
Wow.
You said you wanted to be generous when you came into this life, and you are being generous times 10. I see this show up in your palm in a couple of places where you're someone who really will self-sacrifice for the ones you love, for a spouse, for a family member. And that showed up in a couple of different places. It even looks like you might be doing that a little too much. So I would say make sure you're taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
Because your palm looks like you might be headed towards burnout if you're not careful. I also see entrepreneur all over your palm, which I thought was really interesting. So I think you're somebody who's very money-minded. You have the potential to make a lot of money in your life. That's there if you want it. And I also saw the potential for spirituality. I don't think you've embraced it as much as you could. So there's more there. There's more to tap from that well if you decide that's a route you want to take.
Wow.
Other things that I saw at least 2 giant loves in your life. and I saw two children that you're going to be close to. Doesn't have to be your own, could be a neighbor, could be a niece or nephew. Looks like boy.
Yeah.
Does any of that make sense so far?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I have two boys, and I feel like most people tell us that we are closer than like the average mom-son relationship.
Yeah, it shows up on your palm. It's there.
That's amazing.
Yes. Yes. What else did I see? Oh, you like to play it safe. So I don't see you as somebody who is out jumping out of an airplane. I think you're somewhat risk averse. It doesn't mean that you don't like to have fun. It just means that you're probably not an adrenaline junkie based on your palm.
That tracks. That tracks.
Yeah. You also tell the truth, and it gets you in trouble because I think you're a little too honest at times.
Very much so.
And very responsible. You have a very responsible palm. It does look like younger in life, like maybe early 20s. You weren't quite ready for love, but now I feel like you're very committed. I see a dog on your palm too. Is there a dog somewhere?
Yes. Well, we have two dogs, but there's one who, before he even turned one, I realized I'm going to be devastated when he passes, and he wasn't even one yet. Like, I love this. Oh, okay.
Yep. That little critter's on there.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I saw, the very last thing that I'll bring up, because I know we want to get into the tarot, is that when you look at your palms, you'll see that your middle finger bends more towards your ring finger.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Your palms, and that's called the philosophical outlaw. And so if I had that, I would probably have a bumper sticker or a T-shirt that said like philosophical outlaw, because I think that's a really cool, like that's what that's called. That's the philosophical outlaw palm. You're somebody who cheers for the underdog. You don't mind to support things that aren't mainstream. You are definitely somebody who's willing to support other ideas. So philosophical outlaw.
Wow. I do. Yeah. I think that's, oh my gosh. I have a habit of making like t-shirts for myself. I'm going to have to make myself a philosophical outlaw shirt. Yep. That's great.
Yep. All over your palm. Okay. So let's move on to career. Career was the other thing I saw on your palm. Let me grab my pictures. So I don't think your career, where you end, is going to be where you started. I see a lot of changes in career for you, a lot of different interests. And I think that that's going to cause some anxiety with that need to have security and play it safe. So you're going to be kind of walking a line in a balancing act of, well, I'm interested in this and I want to go this direction, but I'm a little afraid. So wow. I did see career on your palm as well.
Wow. I'm going to have to almost create or I'm going to stay on this after you go and have to like debrief all my feelings about all of this and where you hit.
Yeah,
unless you want to stay on for that, but this is crazy.
Yeah, I'm happy to do it. Okay, so then when we talk about the tarot cards, I'm using the Rider-Waite, which I don't know that that's the ones that you have.
How would I know?
They're going to look something like this. So there are a lot of primary colors.
Yeah, no.
Okay. That's a version. I have a version that looks similar to that. That is a Rider-Waite artwork.
Okay.
I think they're the easiest to learn. And we can talk about that, but that's what I'm going to use for your reading.
Okay.
I'm just going to do a quick shuffle here. Just a general reading. Is there anything special you want me to keep an eye out for? Any kind of questions or things you're interested in?
Oh, wow. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I'm just fascinated about the whole thing.
The way this works is that I'll start putting out cards. I'll start telling you what I see. If you have questions, you can interrupt me. We can throw down some more cards for more guidance.
Okay.
So I don't want you to feel concerned that, oh my gosh, something's going to come up and it's going to be very intimidating, or it isn't going to be what I want to hear. If it looks like there's bumps in the road, we'll pull some more cards to figure out how to get you through that. Okay. So this should not be an intimidating or scary experience.
Okay. I'm just I have paper here on the side to take notes if I need to.
Yeah. All right. So the first card that comes up is the card that represents you. And you are represented by the Three of Cups, which is a very social card. So you're in a very social time. A lot of either celebrations, lots of things going on in your life, particularly with female friends, female relations. Okay. The situation that crosses you right now is the Wheel of Fortune card. And that's a card all about beginnings. So it's perfect for you headed into the summertime.
Right.
Where we talk about how the energy around you is going to be new beginnings. Sometimes with this card, we see changes happening very quickly. So if that starts to feel like, oh my gosh, this ball's rolling faster than I thought it was going to, that's what it is.
Okay.
All right. When I look into your distant past, I do see that you were very self-sufficient. So probably in what I'm looking at your palm and some of the history that I see there, you had a need to be self-sufficient and you really fulfilled that. So you should be proud of yourself because that wasn't easy. So that was a struggle and you really succeeded. So you should be very proud of yourself.
Wow. Thank you.
Yeah, you deserve credit for that. More recently, I see an entrepreneur partnership card come up. So I don't know if this is sort of a new path for you with YouTube and writing and the things that you're interested in there, but that's more recent. And then when I look into the card that's in the future spot, I see that you are really in control. And the world is your oyster, so to speak, or the world is in your hands, whichever world metaphor you want to use. But there's a lot of success for you in the future as well.
Wow.
When I look at what it is that you want to learn, what you want to do, I see education here. I see new skills, new learning, again, more newness. So I think that you're very interested in learning as much as you can. If you are interested in classes or, educational opportunities, those would also fall into where you're headed in the summer. If there's something that you wanted to pick up, apprenticeship, that kind of thing. I also think that go ahead.
Sorry, can I ask, does that also apply to teaching when you say learning? Because I have on my list of goals for this year, for this channel, I want to create some path for others to learn and kind of, basically, I don't want to give people the fish. I want to teach them to fish when it comes to the topics that I discuss. And so I have a plan in mind for that, but I didn't know if that's what this applies to. Okay.
Yes, that all would fall in the realm of education.
Okay.
Either you're learning or you're teaching, that would all fall there, and it all is really lining up. Like the cards make sense when you say that.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Thank you.
Yeah. I do see a concern here that you might be too much of a perfectionist, which I think probably goes back to some of the things I said earlier, that you might be, sacrificing too much. You might be being too hard on yourself. So be careful about perfectionism, particularly in any sort of, new endeavors. It's not going to be perfect. Definitely not going to be perfect right away, but it shouldn't hold you back.
Yeah. I've been learning that.
Yeah. Okay, good. All right, let me throw down a few more cards here. I think that you are afraid of some of the emotions that you feel. There are some emotions that you have that you don't talk about that are intimidating and uncomfortable for you. And so I think you've been neglecting or in denial about some aspect of your life.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I see it. Okay, so then the next card would be a card that says things that you need to do more of. And it's coming up being practical, more balance, more self-care. It's showing up everywhere, isn't it?
Wow.
That's also being compassionate towards others. So I do see something that you need to do more. Not that you're not doing it already, because we've seen some sacrifice, but there may be a certain situation that you're going through or will be going through soon where you're quick to judge.
Okay.
So take a step back, think about that before you react, and then also more self-care. What the universe wants you to know is that you sometimes make problems worse because you get in your own head.
Right.
So things aren't as bad as you think they are.
Right.
And it's okay to just say, you know what, maybe it isn't perfect, but it's going to be okay. It doesn't have to turn into something that keeps you up at night or causes you nightmares or a lot of stress or anxiety. The situation is going to change. Whatever that is, it will change. And then for final outcome, you got the best card in the deck for final outcome. The final outcome is the star card.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that is the best card in the deck.
Wow.
I very rarely see that come up in the final outcomes section. And it's just be true to yourself. Celebrate your successes. Celebrate your achievements. You're going to be able to accomplish anything you want. So you're in a really good position going forward.
Wow.
Yeah, but you're on the right path is what that card says. You're 100% on the right path.
Gosh, I hope so. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, do I debrief now on all the things you
can
hit
do
on?
Whatever you want to do. It's your reading, however you want to handle it.
I mean, okay, well, with female, the beginning part was something about female relations, and I wasn't sure if I should have probably stopped you then, but I wasn't sure if it was something like a positive thing or a negative thing with female relationships. It was a positive thing.
Yep.
Okay.
So if you don't have a female support group, now's the time to get one.
Okay, good to know. Okay, because it is something that I do struggle with. I have the majority of my friends are guys. I can count on one hand. Let's just say that the female friends that I have that I trust trust myself with.
Yeah.
So interesting. Okay, I'm gonna keep an eye out for that. A fast rolling ball. I feel like that's just the story of my life, but. You mentioned all this kind of like change and things like that. So I started out my life as an accountant, and from there went from accountant to kind of like IT. I mean, I'm just going to try to make this story short. From accountant to IT to I got laid off to, okay, well, now I'm going to spend some time trying to actually become a writer because I've been writing all my life, and was able to kind of start down that path, but quickly realized that that wasn't everything I wanted to do. And there's other things that opened my eyes to the fact that creativity is my thing. And so then I started leaning into that, and now here we are, and I've got this channel, and I'm on another podcast that does all this creative stuff. I'm now a chief project director, and so there's creativity is kind of this career path that I'm on right now, and I'm doing a lot of it, and I love it. But yeah, it's very fast moving. I feel like every day it's like, what's the thing I got to do? I got to get this thing done. I got to go out and finish this. Yeah, just trying to stay ahead of the ball there.
Yep.
Self-sufficiency and going way back to my childhood, which I find this very interesting because I don't share this. I mean, let's just say, I don't really share this a lot, and I don't think it's on like my Facebook profile or anything like that. So just for anybody who's watching this and going like, she searched you out and like hunted all this information. No, I know, but I just feel like I can hear people thinking this, right? So this is something I don't put out on social media. Only people who are close to me know this. When I was young, I ran away from home, and I stayed that way because, and I mean, for any family members who watch this, like they know how this all played out, but I just felt like I knew what I wanted in my life, and this is how I'm going to get it. And so I needed to go and just do it. That all the things that you said leading up to this point, it was like, yep, okay.
Yep, it's on your palm. And one thing I should say is that your palm is a reflection of who you are, not the other way around. So if my palm showed me as stubborn, I couldn't just say, sorry about your luck, I'm stubborn, look at these palms. No. They look that way because I'm stubborn.
Ah, interesting. Yeah.
Yes. So the whole situation from your younger years was by design, and that shows up on your palm.
Right. Exactly. Yep. On top of that, I was also a young mom. So being just self-sufficient and being able to take care of myself was really important. I didn't want anybody to have to support me. Just interesting. The partnership you mentioned, I'm not sure. I think you said something like this may be in the past, or it may be going to happen. Yeah. Me being part of Dungeon Studios, that happened last year, and ever since then, with all the change and stuff, there could be a partnership in the near future. I don't know, but I just work with a lot of creatives, and we do so much together. We're constantly collaborating. I would be interested to see if that's going to be a new development.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be a legal, like, binding partnership. It can be collaboration. It can be working together with people.
Yeah. There's a lot of that happening right now, and a lot that I have planned in the near future. It's funny that you mentioned, like around my birthday, which I don't mind sharing is in June. That I just have lots of plans, and kind of I have windows in my brain of when these things will be rolling out, and June on, there's a lot of stuff hopefully coming. So that's so interesting.
Yes.
And that's all stuff.
See this.
Yeah, like I didn't share a timeline of when I'm going to be doing these things, although I have shared on my channel that there's a lot of changes and goals, and so that's very interesting. I am a control freak. you did mention the fact that I'm going to have a lot of success in the future and that I'm on the right path is fantastic, because as a content creator, you always wonder, like, are people liking this stuff? I mean, you're hoping for likes and subscribes, but I mean, really, it's all just down to like, am I doing what my audience, what they need, what they want? So that's always good to know. We talked about the new skills and the learning, being a perfectionist. Yes, that goes back to control. That goes a lot back to being self-sufficient and knowing that if I did this way, it always works. So nobody messes with the way I do things, because the way I do things works. But I do need to let that go a little bit. I have learned that the self-sacrificing is also something that, I am generous, and I want things the way that I want them, but I also want them like that for other people. So because there's a lot of collaboration happening, I can't just give them 50% and give myself 100. Like, I have to also give them 100%. And now I'm giving out 100% to everybody plus me. Ooh, the neglecting emotion. That's a hard one, because let's just say I have a mother-in-law who we love to make fun of. She's probably watching, but she cries at the drop of a hat, and it's the sweetest, most endearing thing. But we make fun of her, and she loves it. Like, it's just she knows. And I have started becoming this way around certain things, which I don't know. I feel like they might be too personal. I don't want to get into it because I don't want to cry in the middle of the interview on my channel. But yes, there are certain emotions and certain trigger points where I have to and divert because I don't want to feel it.
So it's interesting that you say that, because the card that showed me that is this one. It's the Queen of Cups. The Queen of Swords, I mean. And the sword is the intellectual part of the tarot. So tarot's got 4 things. We've got pentacles, wands, swords, and cups. And the wand, the sword, I mean, is the intellectual side. And so this was what showed me, like, I find the intellectual stuff safer than the emotional stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And the fact that it was a Queen of Swords is interesting, because we tend to think of the Queen as like a woman who is older than you, which plays into what you were saying with your mother-in-law.
Yes.
So I see all of that playing out in this one card.
Yeah. See, now I'm going to dab my eyes here.
Oh, no.
No, it's fine. But yes, it definitely hits. Okay. Woo! Moving on, folks. There was a real moment for you there. Balancing and self-care. Definitely. I mean, that all ties into, the control and the 100% for everybody. I was really interested about this. You mentioned something about compassion, and that did you say something like something was going to be coming up, or something's happening where I need to try not to judge? Can you go over that a little bit?
So something is going to happen. So that's a future thing. I'm going to pull a few more cards. We'll see if we can get some extra information about that. I think it's going to be an older couple in your life that's going to have some sort of crisis. At least it's going to feel like a crisis to them. It may not feel like a crisis to you. You may think, oh my gosh, these people are making a mountain out of a molehill. It may be something that they're coming to you about, and you start to feel and take on more responsibility and emotion than you probably should. But it's definitely going to be something where you'll have the chance to be compassionate and understanding. And this is kind of a nudge to recognize that they're going to need you, whoever these people are. And that's kind of sad, since we know that you already have a tendency to self-sacrifice. I don't think this is saying to self-sacrifice. I think this is saying to really listen to whatever it is that's happening.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. That's also hitting on another point that I feel like might be a little too personal to get into on my show. But I will say that if this is the couple that I'm thinking of, then it's definitely been difficult, because I feel like I have to draw a boundary. So with just in general, because I am so self-sacrificing that it kind of would get to a point that, wow, I don't even know how to talk about it without being too personal. Yeah, that's just wild. I feel like I've had to put a boundary. So it's very, I'm curious how I can maintain a boundary, but also, I mean, I guess I can listen and I cannot be judgmental, but yeah, it's like, how do I involve myself to help them? I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, this might be.
So I'm looking at the cards, and I'm trying to see if anything jumps out at me. And I'm seeing here that you've got an inner voice that knows what to do.
Okay.
So maybe spend some time, quiet, doing maybe some automatic writing, something like that, because I think you have the tools to figure out how to walk that line.
Okay.
And I don't think this is a situation that is going to be forever for them.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it's gonna change.
Interesting. Yeah, and then we ended with the star card and like be true to yourself, which kind of ties back into that too, I think. I don't know. This has been such an interesting experience, considering, like I said, I mean, I could just imagine some folks going, because I have a very public life on social media, but there are things that I don't put on social media. So unless you are like an IT dark web expert,
No, I actually didn't look you up at all because I didn't want to be influenced.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Okay. I don't even know. I'm going to have to take some time to unpack all this and think about what to do. So, folks, now that we've gone through a palm reading, we've done the tarot card reading. So, I have some questions. I don't know if this is for anybody who's watching. Like, you could be a writer who wants to learn more about this. And in my case, I just want to learn how to kind of like role play one. Let's start simple then, like with the costume. You mentioned before our interview that you were going to go ahead and be in costume for this, which I thought was fantastic. I tried to do something similar, although I feel like, I don't know, the black probably just ties in with my hair. You can't see it, but I love what you've got going on here. So can you help guide me on how to make this look more like a tarot card reader, or how is there a guide for this?
I think you look wonderful.
Okay.
I think you look absolutely wonderful. And there's so much variety in the tarot card readers.
Okay.
So there's no wrong or right way to do it.
Okay.
This is the costume that I wear when I'm working out at the Carolina Ring Fest, because we have some rules about what we're allowed and not allowed to wear. But this came from a shop on Etsy called, I think it's called Dungeons and Duds.
Okay.
And you can pick out your fabrics, you send in your measurements, you pick out kind of your style, and she makes it, and she does a wonderful job. So that's where this came from. The scarf came from Amazon. So I think there's just kind of like any, just you would wear whatever it is you're drawn to. It's a very intuitive world.
Okay.
And it could change based on the day. Like I said, this is just what I would wear at the Ring Fest.
Okay. Now let's say I'm in costume and I want to kind of get a better feel for, well, let's start with palm reading since we started with palm reading. So, so if you were doing this in person, you would have their palm like laid out, and would you be like, tracing lines, and
I would
kind of tell me what you look for?
Yeah. So when I'm doing palms, and in person, you might actually look at the back side. You might look at fingers together, open. There's different things that all.
Oh, that's right, because you mentioned like my middle finger kind of leans towards. That's so funny. Yeah. That's things I would never think to look for.
Yeah. So it's not just the palm; it's really the whole hand. Everything from the shape of the hand to the individual lines. It's a whole practice all in itself. There's so much around that. But if we were just talking basics, I like to look at the palm of destiny, and I like to look at what's actually happening and compare the two. So that's the first thing that I'm going to look at is, are the lines symmetric between the two palms? And that tells me if you've gone your own way, which is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. There's always free choice. Or if you've really followed along with what you thought you were going to do when you came into this world. The line that cuts across here is your lifeline. There is a heart line, there's a headline, and then there's the line of destiny, which is the line I read as career. And you're also going to find a little bit of different flavors between readers as up to how they read your palms. And if you want to do something avant-garde with your character, D&D writing or whatever, you can always relate it back to their teacher or their teacher's teacher with a creative story, because there is no right or wrong in what we do. But it is important to be consistent. That's the thing. So if I'm going to read this line that kind of cuts down the middle of your palm as career, I need to always read it as career. If I'm going to read the three of wands as like a partnership card, I need to always read it as partnership.
Interesting.
Because that helps my spirit guides and everybody that I'm working with on my side. This person that I'm reading for is a partnership. We need to make sure that the three of wands comes out in the reading.
Yeah.
So being consistent is more important in yourself than being consistent with other readers. So you'll see a lot of variation.
Interesting. Yeah. I did read a lot about, tarot card reading. I didn't even think about palm reading when I had kind of come up with this concept for myself, that it is very intuitive, which is why I think for me, learning anything, I going back to like, my learning, I love to take in knowledge, but I kind of feel like I live in a black and white world where it's like, there's this, you read about it or you watch a YouTube video and that's how you do it. Whereas this being so intuitive and not everybody does things kind of the same way, there's a lot of gray area. And I think my brain just cannot handle that.
Right. You're very analytical.
Yeah.
You're very analytical.
Yeah.
And this has got a lot of squishiness to it.
Yeah.
It would be an area where you could tap into your creativity. creativity.
Yeah. I feel like this is going to be a stretch for me to role play, but I love the challenge, so I'm going to do this. I had a question. As a child, okay, so my roots are my family's Filipino, and my grandma was like what we call like first generation, Filipino. She came over to America, but she spent most of her life in the Philippines, and so she didn't speak a lot of English. When I grew up, she watched me a lot for like, she babysat. And I remember as a kid, she looked at and I don't know if this is going to come up on camera at all, if I can see this little like marking, kind of like a little freckle. Yeah. There we go. Okay, it's so hard. I have little freckles all over the place here. But for some reason, that one, I remember she pointed it out and said that because it was on my pinky, I would grow up to be a thief. And she would do things like this. I remember as a kid, like, and a lot of it I know goes back to our cultural like superstitions. Yeah. She told me like, if I want to be beautiful, I have to eat onions. If, there was just, I don't know, all these things that I'm trying to think about as a kid. I was like, that is so weird. Why is she telling me this? But yeah, apparently this spot to her meant I was going to be a thief. And I was very curious about that. Do you look at like markings on the hands? Freckles, yes, moles, anything like that?
You can. When I'm doing palm reading, I am focused more on the lines, unless there's just some really like main distinguishing point. A little freckle like that would not catch my attention.
Okay.
And I would never say to someone, oh, this is on your palm, this is what's predestined to happen. Because I believe 100% in free choice.
Yeah.
No matter what I say in your palm or in your tarot reading or anything else, you always have free choice. You're always in control.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. That's actually a really great point. I love that. And I'll have to remember that, is that whatever I'm predicting when I'm role playing, or what, not predicting because it's not set in stone. I'll have to rephrase that. I'll have to think about this, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I would never want someone to feel like, oh my gosh, I'm super trapped and I'm going to be a thief.
Yeah.
When that's clearly within your control.
Yeah. That's so funny. So now let's talk about the cards. Can you you said you had a certain card type. Can you tell me a little bit more about that, and like what other card types there are, or what the importance of that is?
So what I used to learn on is the Rider-Waite, and that's the artwork. And I like it because there's a lot of symbolism and they're easy to read. And I can show you what I mean by that. So we looked at maybe the Tower card. Like you can look at this and see right away, these people are in distress. There is some sort of crisis. We sometimes refer to this as the London Bridge is falling down card.
Yeah.
Like their bridge has fallen. There's something wrong. If you look at some of the other cards, so I have the Light Seeker Tarot.
Okay.
Here's what their tower looks like. And it's absolutely beautiful. It's beautiful little like forestry artwork.
Wow.
But I don't look at that and know right away crisis.
Right. I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah. This is the good tarot. Again, same card, tower, but it looks so much different. It's just a beautiful castle.
Trying to see if I can find my tower card and see what it looks like.
Yeah, let's see what your tower card looks like.
You can keep talking while I look if you had anything else to say on that.
So you can even get things like cat tarot. So this is the cat tarot. So there's a little kitty cat.
Oh my gosh, there's cat tarot.
But again, I don't look at this and immediately know how much of a crisis someone's in.
Okay, so that's the tower card. Yeah, so very similar.
Yours is very much similar to the Rider-Waite. That is Rider-Waite imagery. So I think those are going to be a good deck to learn on. Because you can get so much from just the pictures themselves.
Wow. Okay. There's a lot of cards here. I mean, this is wild. This is a big deck.
Yeah, there's 78. Definitely you can mark your cards, which was something that I had mentioned earlier. If you don't want to go to the trouble of writing out the whole thing on your card, one thing that my oldest daughter, she wanted to learn tarot. And one of the things we did to help her was we went through each card and we picked a song that embraced the meaning of that card and wrote the name of that song on the card rather than write the whole thing out. And so when a card will come up, she'll know like which song it relates to.
Okay.
So if you're more musical, that might be another way to help learn the cards.
That is a fantastic idea. I am very musically inclined. And you're right. I mean, I've said this it was another interview I just did last week with someone else. Music evokes such emotion for me that makes a lot of sense. It's kind of like my little cheat sheet, if you will, of like, what does this card mean to me? Oh, wow.
Yep, that could be another way to learn it.
Oh my gosh, all the internet searching in the world would not have given me this. This is amazing. Oh, so I wanted to ask, I love playing with cards in general, like playing cards, and I can shuffle fairly easily, but these things are monsters. How do you shuffle them, or how do you?
I do shuffle them.
Yeah.
I do shuffle them. Let me see. They get more flexible the more you use them.
So I kind of need to break them in a little bit.
Break them in.
Okay.
Yep. And you see people that sometimes do the shuffle like this. That's another way to do it. But I shuffle them.
Okay. Wow.
Yep.
Okay. And then is there a certain way before you read someone's fortune that you have to shuffle them, or is that also an intuitive choice for
That's an intuitive choice. Yep.
Interesting. Do you have them cut the deck if you were in person? Does that matter?
I do. There are some readers who do not. So again, personal choice. I like for the person that I'm reading for to get their energy into the card. Some people want their cards completely pure. So I like the energy of the person that I'm working with. Now, you mentioned that your cards were given to you, which is an interesting kind of old wives' tale that your first deck has to be given to you.
Oh, really?
That is not true. You can buy your own, but it's beautiful that yours were given to you. When we get our new cards, a deck that we really want to work with, it's not uncommon for us to keep our cards with us.
Yeah.
Even like sleep with the deck under your pillow for a few nights, just to really work your energy into the deck.
Okay. I mean, I could totally do that. I will do that.
Yeah.
Oh, I know I'm asking questions right now, but I'm going to go back to, you mentioned something about spirituality for me. Do you remember hold on, I might have to go back to my page of notes, but I'm trying to remember exactly what you said. If it was something about like I struggle with it, or I'm getting ready to experience something spiritual,
where that's coming from, I can tell you. If you look at your palm of destiny, which is your right hand, you have a very large triangle in the middle of your palm.
You said my right hand? Okay.
Yep, there's a big triangle there. Everybody. Yeah, there's a big.
Is it this?
And there's like a little line when I zoomed in on mine that makes a triangle.
Got it. Okay. Yeah.
When I zoomed in on the picture you sent me.
Okay.
That large triangle indicates that you have a lot of potential for spirituality. When I looked at your left hand, which is the hand that's actually what's happening, it didn't look like that triangle was as big or as complete.
Okay.
So that's what made me say there's room for you to grow in your spirituality if you want to.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do kind of feel that too. I wanted to touch on that. My husband and I kind of have, we call it like a little mini homestead, but it's more closer to like an urban homestead. And ever since we kind of started this, we're on this path of, well, we want to get like, a 50-acre farm and just live in nature and have like a wild garden. And I already dry my herbs and make my own teas. And when I was doing some research into tarot card reading, there were, this intuitiveness is like, I have never been one for religion. Not that I don't believe in it. I love that other people do. It just has never been for me. But this kind of gray area, which is so funny because I don't live in a gray area, but I love this area. Ever since we've started with the like I said, the homesteading, and now with like growing my own herbs, and then I started like making my own tinctures, and I can see myself kind of being this, I don't want to put anyone down when I say this. I love the idea of being this kind of, old woman herbalist something. I don't know, like you know what I'm trying to I don't know.
I relate to that. I do my own tinctures. I have a whole apothecary.
Yes, apothecary. That's the word I was hunting for.
Yes, I do. And I want to live as much of an intuitive life as I can while still living in reality. I still have to get up and go to my 9-to-5 job. I still have to pay my bills. But that doesn't mean that I can't blend the two. Mm-hmm. Room for both. Yeah.
I think that's where I'm at in my life, is I want room for both. I don't yet have room for both, but I want to make room for both. That's great. I wanted to talk about, when I did my research, there's different like layouts when you put the cards out. Mm-hmm. And I think I also read that that is also a choice, a personal choice of how you do that. Can I ask you what you use?
Sure. Do you want me to switch camera views so you can kind of watch my cards?
Yes, please.
Let me switch my camera and then we can look at the cards as I lay them down. We'll talk about the spread.
Yes.
Which is also, can be called the layout.
Okay.
All right, there we go.
That's beautiful.
All right. So this is the map my husband gave me 2 years ago for Christmas.
Wow.
So you mentioned the different spreads. The one I used when I worked with you earlier was the Celtic Cross. And I use a little bit of a modified version of it just because it's the questions that I got asked the most when I do readings. So I've put my own flair on it. So I start with a card in the middle, and this card represents the person that I'm doing the reading for. And then I do a cross. And that card represents the situation that's crossing that person, the situation top on their mind.
Okay.
Then from here, I'll do a distant past, a more recent past, and a future card. So that tells me a little bit about where the person has been and where they're going. Again, each one of these locations is just as long as you're consistent in what it means, you can make it personal to you. Just be consistent. Final outcome card is what I put at the top. And then along the side, I will do this card would mean whatever it is that you're afraid of. This is a card that shows what you need to do more or less of, depending on the type of card that comes up. This card is the message from the universe, what the universe wants you to know. And then this card is what's going to actually happen. So that's my version of a Celtic cross. And that's the format that I would use. Another really, really common one is called past, present, future. So if you were to ask me about your love life, let's say, I would put down 3 cards for past, present, future. And I would say, okay, well, in the past, it looks like to me you've had a hard time balancing. My camera's backwards. So in the past, it looks like you've had a hard time balancing your love life. Maybe you go all in and overdo it or smother someone, or you lose yourself in that relationship. Presently, I see a lot of happiness here. There's children. I see children here in this card. And then going into the future, I see a longer life with a man who's going to be very stable, maybe a little judgmental at times, someone sturdy and stable that you can count on. So that's how I would read a past, present, future. And then if somebody said, oh, I want to know more, like you asked earlier, I want to know more about this card, I always throw down 3 cards. So if you wanted to know more, I'd throw down 3 cards, and then I would read these cards to give me more information about the one that the client's asking about.
Now, the order of those extra 3 cards, does the order of that matter at all?
I hate to say it's intuitive, but it is intuitive, depending on the question. So if the question is just, oh, I want to know about this one person, was I right to break up with them or whatever? I don't think the order is going to matter in that case. If the question is something like, when should I move? The order might matter. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Wow. I am so excited to start finding music to put to my cards, because I think that's really going to make this all connect for me to do it. I'm watching you do it. It's such a fun project. It seems so, obviously you've been doing this for a while, but I can see how you are so very comfortable with reading these cards. And I think that's where I would like to try to get to with these. I know I started this to do a D&D character, but I really am interested in it. Actually,
it's
getting
so
into
much
this.
Fun.
Yeah.
Practice. I would say that's the other big key. Practice, practice, practice.
Now, do you read your own? Can you, or do you have
to?
Okay.
You can. I and a few other readers have talked about this before, and you can. None of us are good at it, because we'll put on the cards and I'll be like, I don't know, it's not really the answer I want. So I'll shuffle and my deck will give me the exact same cards or the exact same answer. And I'm like, nope, I'm still not happy about this. And then eventually the cards will just get mad at me and they'll quit talking to me. I think it takes someone who can really be detached to be able to read for themselves.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, it's almost like you're taking it personally.
Yes.
Oh, that's funny. After we get off of here, I'm going to start hunting down songs for my cards. And how many cards did you say there's? 78?
78.
78. That's a lot of song hunting.
Yeah.
Do I just, is it a matter of just going to Google and saying, okay, what does the Fool card mean and then whatever Google tells me, then go hunt a song? Or is there a better way you think for me to do something like that?
I don't think there's a better way.
Okay.
I think there's different ways, but I don't think there's a better way. I would definitely say just whatever resource you want to use. There's plenty of books. There's even the little booklet that comes with your cards.
Oh yeah, that's right.
There's
I have one of those.
So whatever source you want to use. So like for the Fool means like a new beginning. If you look at the card, it's a little guy who doesn't have much. He's got this little loyal dog, and he's just happy as can be. And so a song that I think of when I look at that card is it's a new dawn, it's a new day, and I'm feeling good. That's the kind of song that I think of when I look at the Fool.
Okay.
So it's just a matter of really finding that song that embraces the energy of the card.
Okay. Wow. Boy, you came up with that song real fast. See, this is why you go to the experts, folks. What?
You can just write that right on the card. You can buy, an inexpensive deck to learn on for $10, $15, and you can just use a magic marker and just write the name right on the card.
Yeah.
And it will show up when you're doing your readings.
Okay. Yeah, I think I will do that. I actually do have another deck that was from like a spirit Halloween store, after Halloween. So
yeah.
Perfect. Have you had any experiences where you've read for someone and they were angry or dissatisfied? Not that I'm actually really going to do this, but I'm just curious, as a role play scenario, I could see something like that happening. I'm trying to figure out how, as a tarot card reader, that gets handled.
Yeah. So people are emotional. I don't think there was a day go by at the Ren Fest where we didn't have multiple people, crying.
Oh.
We would hug and comfort because it's a sensitive topic. Usually people seek out help when they're having a difficult time. So the emotions are kind of close to the surface. I was doing a couple reading once, and I said something to the effect of like someone's keeping a secret, and that could be anything in a marriage. And the husband got up and left. He was angry and he got up and left.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I said, it's what the cards say. I'm reading the cards. I'm not a mind reader. I'm not reading anyone's energy or aura. I'm just telling you what the cards say. I'm an interpreter. The wife actually came back the next day and asked if he was cheating on her. All of the Queen cards came up, which never happens in a reading. And I was like, I think so. Like the cards to me say that he is. And she said, well, I did find, I think it was an earring in our bed that doesn't belong to me.
Oh my goodness.
Oh gosh, like I got goosebumps. I was like, well, like I'm sorry, and she wanted advice on, if her kids were going to be okay, if she was going to be okay. And, there are a couple cards in the deck that talk about professionals, professional help. Those cards came up and I said, I think you need a counselor, you need an attorney, you need a good support system. The same thing that anybody would need going through that situation. But that's one that really stands out in my mind when you talk about someone being really emotional. That really triggered him. He got up and left.
Wow.
And now we know why.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's funny. I've been to a few Ren fairs and I have never actually you're the first person who's ever read my fortune for me, which I am so appreciative of. I have never done that at a Ren fair, and I'm trying to imagine like that scenario happening, how uncomfortable.
Yes.
So would you say that is the I don't want to say worst case scenario that you've experienced?
That is, the other thing is, sometimes people will say, well, it doesn't really resonate with me. And and that's okay. Go home, think about it. There may be some situation or something that's either happening or getting ready to happen, and that's going to then click in place. Yeah. I feel like the people are going to hear what they need to hear when they sit with me. I trust that it's going to give them whatever it is that they need, regardless of whether or not someone's like, well, you said in 1986 this happened, and that's not the case. It isn't always about hitting the nail on the head every time from facts so much as it is about helping people.
Right. I would think the majority of the time people, the messages that you're giving them are hitting on the head, right? I feel like you nailed this there was nothing that I could disagree with. So
thank you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. No, I could probably come back to you.
You can always contact me. Always contact me. I did write down a couple of little notes for someone who was doing world building, if you want me to go through those.
Oh, sure. That would be great. Thank you.
So, okay. Thank you. There's an oral tradition in tarot, which I have not been able to validate online. I've looked, but it is the oral tradition that when tarot was started years and years ago, you had to be over 40 to learn it.
Oh.
So it's very recent that anyone of any age can learn it. So if you're doing some sort of historical piece, your tarot reader may not be a young person.
Okay.
See, what else did I write down? Oh, I think I already covered this. There's a misconception that tarot readers are mind readers. We are not. The more information you give your reader, the better your reading's going to be, because each card has so many different meanings. If they know something that's going on in your life, they can interpret it correctly based on the stuff that you tell them. Mm-hmm. Another one that comes up a lot is the death card. Everyone sees the death card and panic.
Yeah.
It doesn't always, and in fact, it very rarely means a physical death. Oftentimes it means some sort of ending. And this could even be an ending that you're like, oh, thank goodness that's over. Like, it could be the end of school. It could be the end of a job where you're leaving to go to something better. It can oftentimes be an ending with a feeling of relief. So the death card is not scary. It doesn't mean anything bad. And I think that was the last note I had. We've covered, I think, everything else. But if I were doing world building, those would be a few items I'd want to know.
You know, now that you did touch on the death card, can you either give me an example or help me understand when, like, what signs you would get when the death card is a bad sign?
Right. So I don't know that it would be ethical for me to ever be like, oh, someone's going to die.
Right.
I try to be very ethical about my readings. If someone were to come in and ask me a sensitive topic, should I get divorced? Should I have this baby? Those kinds of questions. I am not going to say yes or no to any of that. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to pull a few cards and I'm going to say, if you choose A, this is what, it could happen. If you choose option B, this is what could happen. And this is what you might be looking at.
Right.
Because I want the person to have free choice, because that's what, the human experience is all about, is human choice. Right. So I wouldn't ever want to influence anyone. And I feel like the death card could also be taken that way if you're talking about a physical death. If I suspected it based on something that someone was telling me, Grandpa's really, really sick, we don't know if he's going to make it, and the death card comes up, I might start saying things like, well, let's talk about this. How would you get through that? If that happened, how would you prepare for it? Maybe do a little bit of talking it over with them to get them maybe prepared for that. But I would never say, yep, he's going to die and it's going to be on Tuesday at 4.
Yeah, that would not be good.
I would not do that. But if it looked like that was in the cards, I would start to kind of gently nudge them towards, working through it and saying, like, what would you like to say to your grandpa now? Do you have a chance? Go see him. Those kinds of things versus some sort of doomsday prediction.
That's good to hear. A, that you do that, and B, that would definitely, like, for someone who has no real knowledge of how to actually do this, if I'm going to role play it, I wouldn't want to do that either. Just even pretend like that. Yeah. Good advice. I love that. Yeah. Thank you for doing that little extra research for me. That was so nice.
You're welcome.
So, Gemma, where can people find you? I believe I also saw that you're able to be hired, or you mentioned you've done some things. Can you share a little bit, promote yourself, and tell everybody where they can find you?
Sure. So I have a website called the Enlightened Goddess Shop. There are products for sale on there. So we've got crystals, we've got some crystal grids, sage, all kinds of different products there that are metaphysical. And I sell some tarot cards if you're interested in that. And then also I have a section in there where you can purchase a reading. So I can do a reading by email if you want to just send me your question, or we can set up a Zoom call. But all of that's available on that site. And I also have a Facebook page, which is the Enlightened Goddess.
Wow. So this is, folks, I just never knew that you could do this digitally distanced as we are. It is fantastic to know. I feel like that's something, I don't know, like I said, maybe it's just me. I wasn't aware of it. Maybe there's a lot of other people out there who aren't aware of it. This could be a really big way for you to connect with other folks, especially, I'm sure with COVID, it was difficult, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
So this is a great avenue for you to be able to do this, for other tarot card readers to be able to do this as well. Yeah, is there, just because I've said it so many times through the interview, tarot card reader, do you guys have other names that you call yourselves? Fortune tellers, or like is it just tarot card reader? Because I feel like that's a mouthful when you say it a lot.
Yeah, a lot of times we will shorten it when we talk to each other to reader. Oh, well, we've got a new reader coming in.
Got it.
Or, oh, have you met so-and-so? She's a reader. He's
Okay.
a reader. So a lot of times it gets shortened to that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's really how we self-identify.
Good to know. All right. Well, Gemma, it was a pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much for doing this.
You're welcome.
I can't wait I'm going to go through this and edit it. So that means I get to rewatch it again and reabsorb and think about everything that you've said. I can't wait to share this video with everyone.
Of course. And if you have questions, please let me know. I am happy to answer any questions you've got. If there was something that you wanted to talk about, I still have some time. If you've got a burning question or if you want to think about it and come back, that's okay too.
I will do that. Thank you so much.
All right. You're welcome.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
If you want to know more about Gemma or schedule a reading, check out her website, enlightenedgoddessshop.com. While you're there, don't forget to snag some supplies for all your metaphysical needs. Make sure you like and subscribe for more interviews like this, and thanks for getting Perty Nerdy with us.